A well put together lasagna is comforting and welcoming, and everyone loves it. This vegan lasagna recipe is no exception. And it's a great way to get your kids to eat a plant-based diet without them knowing. I talk a lot about being from Lebanese heritage, but I'm also Italian, and I used to serve this to my Italian dad, and even he would eat it and not really know the difference. Welcome to Kat's Vegan Kitchen. Let's get started. Every delicious lasagna needs ricotta cheese, and this lasagna vegetariana is no exception. I'm going to show you how I make my own ricotta cheese. Now, you can buy commercial ricotta cheese, vegan ricotta cheese at the supermarket, but back when I started eating a plant-based diet, that wasn't a thing. So I had to learn to make my own. So I'm going to take a block of firm tofu. Make sure you squeeze the water out or press your tofu ahead of time. And you don't want, a lot of times they'll tell you to freeze your tofu. Don't freeze this tofu. You want it to be soft and have that same texture as ricotta cheese. Now there is another way to make ricotta out of nuts, but for this recipe, I like this one. It's just a little bit easier, less time consuming, and less fatty. And now I'm gonna add in a few spices. First of all, I'm gonna add in a little bit of olive oil. This is about 2 tablespoons. Real ricotta cheese has a lot of fat in it, so we want this to have some fat for flavor. I'm gonna add in a half a teaspoon to a teaspoon of basil. I'm going to add in a teaspoon and a half of parsley. These are dried herbs. I'm going to add in a half teaspoon of salt. This is my homemade vegan Parmesan cheese. You can find the recipe on Kat's Vegan Kitchen, but you can also use nutritional yeast or a commercial vegan Parmesan. This is about 3 tablespoons, and I'm going to add that in. Yeah, prior to about 2009, 2008, there really were not any or many commercial vegan cheese options. People who've been plant-based for a while will tell you all their stories about how they had to make their own burgers and cheeses. But I think it turned out good because a lot of these recipes are a lot healthier than some of the commercial stuff on the market. So this ricotta cheese has a lot less fat than your typical ricotta cheese, and it has no cholesterol. My last ingredient is the juice of about half a lemon. That's just gonna give it a nice little tang like cheeses have. And I lied, there is one other ingredient I like to add to this. I like to add about a half cup to 3/4 cup of a commercial mozzarella cheese, vegan mozzarella cheese. Now, Follow Your Heart is a brand that's local to Southern California. They've adapted their cheese over the years, and I think it's absolutely one of the best mozzarellas on the market, and I am going to use that brand for that reason. Nobody is paying me to say that. Now, I always tell you, taste your food. That is how I want it to taste. Don't expect it to taste just like ricotta cheese, but once it's all mixed in, it's gonna be really delicious. Okay, it's time to put together our lasagna. We're gonna take our uncooked lasagna noodles and we're gonna lay them in our pan. I do like to lay an end noodle in the pan. Some people don't do that. This recipe is actually gluten-free today because the only noodles my little cooperative had were gluten-free noodles. Now I'm going to take a little bit of my ricotta cheese and I'm going to dollop it. You don't want a super thick layer of tofu here, so you spread it out all over the noodles. This tofu ricotta can also be used in things like baked ziti. I really like to put it in that. Once we have that, we're gonna take our vegetables, and I like to use a colorful array of vegetables because different colored vegetables give you different nutrients. So I'm going to use broccoli. I love broccoli. You can use any vegetables you want. Zucchini is really nice in this, squash is really nice in this. But you're gonna take a layer of chopped veggies. You want them to be chopped pretty small. I am using this second ingredient is a yellow squash. When you're making a recipe like this, you do want your vegetables to be chopped pretty equally. And I just put down 2 that weren't, but you want them to be chopped pretty equally so they cook equally. And I actually love carrots in this recipe because it adds a really, really nice sweetness. Look at all those beautiful nutrient-rich veggies. This vegetarian lasagna recipe is much lower in fat and has no cholesterol than traditional lasagna. Now we're gonna take our sauce and we're just going to kind of sprinkle it over the top. I am sinning and using jarred spaghetti sauce. But this recipe is already a little involved. I will show you how to make traditional Italian sauce in another video. Now I'm simply going to add another layer of noodles on top. And I'm going to put another layer of cheese and veggies. What's great about this recipe is if you buy one of those aluminum baking pans, you can actually double it and put one in your freezer, and then it's ready to go anytime you need it. Okay, and we're going to add a little bit more sauce. If you'd like a lot of sauce, you can add in more. The vegetables have water in them, so they are going to cook down and spread that sauce out a little bit. And our final layer, of course, is going to be a layer of noodles, a generous layer of sauce. Here's a trick from my kitchen. I always put a tiny itty bitty little bit of water in the jar of sauce so I can get every little bit of sauce out of the jar. And finally, of course, we are going to top this with mozzarella cheese. So this is the vegan, follow your heart mozzarella cheese. Okay, super important step. The lasagna noodles aren't cooked, which saves us time. But what we need to do is we need to add about 1/3 cup of water into that pan so that when it steams up, the lasagna noodles will cook. I'm gonna wrap my lasagna with aluminum foil. I'm gonna wrap it really tight around the edges so it will steam down. And I'm gonna cook it in a 350-degree oven for about 45 minutes covered. And then there's a final step till we're done. I baked my lasagna at 350 degrees for about 50 minutes. And then I pulled it out and I let it sit for about 10 minutes before I cut it. I did notice the gluten-free noodles cracked a little more than traditional noodles. So just a heads up if you're gonna try to use those. Remember, if you found value in this video, hit that thumbs up button and subscribe so you never miss a recipe. Thanks for watching. I'll see you next time on Kat's Vegan Kitchen. Enjoy.